Okay, we're going to get started here and with a briefing on a couple of things, a little bit on Corona and a lot about kids. Now, just want to up front state that we're going to be talking about the city's efforts to help kids and parents, families during the fall. Obviously, we're not talking about APS's schedule. That would be questions for APS and so forth, and stay tuned for that. This is about the city's work for kids and parents. So let's begin, as we like to do, though, with a little bit on Corona, COVID-19, and where our city's at, and some updates from our Joint Information Center. First, want to mention that the New Mexico Environmental Health Department, they have filed an emergency rule that does require employers to report positive COVID-19 cases to the Environmental Health Department within 4 hours of being notified. This is really important for contact tracing and so forth. So just want to highlight that this is now, again, an emergency rule that everyone needs to follow. Now, also, on a separate issue, the Small Business Recovery Loan Fund for New Mexico. It opened August 5th. There's online applications at nmfinance.com. This Small Business Recovery Act of 2020 allocates $400 million in funds from New Mexico State Severance Tax Fund to provide loans to New Mexico businesses and nonprofits who are experiencing financial hardship. And so there's lots of money out there available, so please try and take advantage and apply through that website. Okay, I'm going to shift this a little bit here. Okay, also it's back to school weekend at all our stores, and the tax holiday is on. But as we know, it's not necessarily correlated with kids going back to school, but the holiday is the same time. So for those of you just financially and so forth, I want to remind everyone that the holiday begins August 7th. That is this Friday, and it starts at 12:01 a.m. And continues through midnight on Sunday. So this is the tax-free weekend in New Mexico. Now, during that time, of course, the state allows merchants to deduct the gross receipts taxes on a wide variety of retail merchandise, allowing back-to-school shoppers and other purchases to be tax-free. Now, the state has also created an emotional support helpline to assist with New Mexicans who are experiencing anxiety and stress during these times. We know corona fatigue and all things associated can be very difficult on folks from all walks of life. There's now a helpline you can call. It's 1-855-NM-CRISIS. And so that number would be 1-855-662-7474. This provides immediate assistance, referrals, and someone to talk about for all your emotional concerns. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about some of the numbers in the Albuquerque metro area with respect to corona. And there's going to be an update, I believe, from the state later today that will have updated figures and so forth. So for really questions and information on this, stay tuned this afternoon, I think, to the state's press conference on this. But as a little bit with respect to Albuquerque Metro, our spread rate seems to be now below 1 again, which is a very good thing. This is a key metric, the R0 metric that we're really tracking. And again, that's sort of the biggest indicator as to what the future holds. So right now we look like we're down to 0.8. And so that is a very positive thing and reflection, I think, of people respecting the mask rule, especially continuing to do social distancing. And it does seem to show that maybe some of the changes that we've made statewide with respect to restaurants and so forth have also helped. Now, we've been making good progress, but again, I think it's because of everyone's efforts to respect this. And our state continues to lead the way with respect to how we're dealing with this and having rates of change in a lot of our numbers. And the Albuquerque Metro is in a similar situation. So if you look at the percentage of positive cases, if you look at the percentages of deaths, all per capita, we are doing much better than Austin, than Denver, than Phoenix. And so we are demonstrating this is a much healthier place to live during a time of pandemic. And it's because of the hard work we're putting in, and also I think all the things we've done to make the different regulations work, but also make sure that we're following the best practices to try and reduce the spread. So we've got to continue to do that, but I think also I'm proud of the way we've handled this compared to other cities, and I'm glad I live in Albuquerque, and I think we should be as well. Now, couple of other things that I would note is that we're going to talk about education here today, but I do want to talk a little bit about enforcement before we do that. Just in the last 7 days, we've had about 65 different enforcement interactions with businesses and individuals. We issued 8 formal warnings. I think as was noted, over the last weekend, we did issue a citation. And over the course of July, we've had about 72 interactions of enforcement at the airport that were, again, on a more sort of put on your mask directive way. The other ones include 8,600 face coverings given out at the airport. And as a reminder, we give those out to everyone who's even passing through, and we make them wear a mask passing through. So again, we're trying to focus our enforcement efforts in a smart way, in an intelligent way, where the highest risk is. That is inside and interactions with folks from out of state. And so the airport has been key to that. Now, also, we're trying to support our businesses during this time. So I do want to mention our programs that we announced last week, trying to hold up our restaurants with respect to outside dining. We know that wasn't available for everyone, so we put in place a program where restaurants could apply for streets, for sidewalks, for parking lot usage, and then we also put money in to actually allow for tents and so forth, because right now it's obviously really hot, and some of the monsoon issues too. So we've had 127 outdoor dining permits submitted and 108 outdoor dining grants applications that came in as of yesterday. The next round of grants are going to be drawn next week, and so we're taking applications through Monday. If you're a restaurant that wants to expand outside, please take advantage of that program. Also, City Council allocated some more money towards that. So I think we're going to continue. As long as there's demand, we will help you defer the cost of getting tents in your parking lot, sidewalk, or street. All right, so with that, let's transition a little bit to our topic for today. I think one of the top things on everyone's mind is what's happening with our schools during the time of Corona. And for parents and kids, obviously, it's even more top of mind. And Liz and I are APS parents, and so we also, this is the top of our mind as well. And so we've been paying very close attention to the announcements that have come from the state and from APS. And as a reminder, you know, our city actually really takes care of our kids before school, after school, and over the summer. There's also an early childhood component to that as well. So there's really 4 areas where the city heavily supplements what happens in our school district, and that's what we want to focus on today. And normally our city handles about 30,000 kids. That's roughly half the population of kids in at least Albuquerque APS. And so for us, the connection between the city, as a reminder maybe for folks watching online, there actually is no formal connection. The city has no formal say over APS at all. But we have many joint task forces and conferences and so forth, also with the county, where, again, the city and the county try and step up after school, before school, over the summer, and for early childhood. Now, because the school system is obviously looking at a number of different scenarios right now, the current plan being a week on and a week off hybrid model. Again, that could change very soon, but that's the current plan. We are trying to figure out how the city can step up and really help all the way through December, regardless of what the model is. And that's what we're here today to talk about. So today, what we are basically announcing is that in a version, one way or another, we are going to try and roll our summer programs into the fall. So that includes full-time, all-day programs for kids. And so our team that's here are going to introduce them. They're going to walk us through it. But basically, we're going to utilize as many community centers as we can. We're going to utilize our open space, and we're going to utilize our cultural services buildings and facilities to try and be there for parents and kids as much as we can. And similar to what we did this summer. And so to give you an idea, this summer, you know, using rounded numbers, we were able to help thousands of kids, let's say roughly around 10,000 for parents and kids who needed that. And we're hoping to be able to deliver that all the way through the fall. Now, this does have a price tag associated with it. We're going to probably fund this through hopefully some partnership with APS and the county, but we're going to use our CARES money to really step up and be able to do this. And so for us, I want to mention a couple of things. I want to remind everyone that staying home in many ways is a luxury, and I think this is very important. We've got to understand that for tens of thousands of our kids and their parents, they're in a situation where it might be a single parent who has to work. And they might have to work because they're an essential worker. They might have to work because they just need the income, obviously, to provide for their family. And for us, there are a number of reasons. We want the child engaged. We want them to be, learning of any kind, even if it is not the most curriculum-based learning, even if it's our traditional summer-type learning that we offer, which is really about recreation and so forth. That is very, very important. And also it enables that parent to be able to work. And so for our workforce, this is also a big issue. We know that there are hundreds of thousands of parents in Albuquerque who manage their workforce. In other words, they're going to work around the school year, and they're caregiving around the school year. So we cannot keep the economy open. We cannot provide the kind of workforce that our city needs without providing somewhere for kids to go. And that's where our city is really, really stepping up in a way also that is somewhat unprecedented around New Mexico. We to our knowledge, of course, being the largest city, we're really leading the way on this. And around the country, I do know some cities like New York and Boston are heavily involved in this, as well as Louisville and Chicago. But there are many, many cities who aren't able to do this. And so I'm grateful that Albuquerque has the staff and the resources and a plan to be able to step up to keep our economy running and to keep our kids safe. So with that, we're going to be using the same kind of system we usually use, which is a lottery system that's also based on sign-ups and so forth online. And so we have a whole team that does this. They're called the Youth Connect team, and some of them are here today. And so I'm going to introduce them, but we've got, number one, I think our educational liaison. This is a position that I actually created when we came into office. And many folks remember the woman who was in it before did a great job, Claire Dudley. One of the things we did do during Corona was get a replacement who's been doing a great job. And so Sasha Pellerin is now in that role and is going to speak shortly. But we also have folks from Parks and Rec, from our Family and Community Services Department, from Cultural Services, from Transit, from Senior Affairs. They all work together to try and make this happen, and that is our Youth Connect team. So we're going to hear from some of them shortly, but I do want to just mention that we are working, of course, part of Sasha's job is to coordinate with APS and with UNM to make sure we're connected on different kinds of programming. And so with that, I want to hand it over, and her more official title is Senior Policy Advisor for Educational Programs, to Sasha Pellerin. Sasha, come on up.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. Again, my name is Sasha Pellerin. I'm the Senior Policy Advisor in Education for the City of Albuquerque. I want to thank you all for having me here this morning, and I want to take a moment to recognize the challenges families are facing as we move back into school. When I was in elementary school, my mother took on a part-time afternoon job making minimum wage. As a native Burqueña, a single mom, and a working-class mom of color, she was terrified at the idea of leaving me at home alone. At that time, my brother, who was in middle school, actually became my secondary parent. He picked me up from the bus stop, he fed me, and he helped me with homework. And again, my mom was terrified, which is a feeling that I think many of our families are facing today as we face this pandemic. I believe this administration has brought me on to implement equitable practices at every step and in every single plan. And specifically for this plan, I think what I wanted to highlight is one of the ways we're collaborating with APS and upholding equitable practices for children and families. The City of Albuquerque has decided to partner with APS in the APS Cadet Program. This program trains trains seniors, sophomore, and junior students in early childhood as well as in education. So this is a pipeline for children or for students who want to become teachers. The city has decided to hire these young people to do two things. First, they'll support full-day programming academically in all of our centers. And secondly, they will serve as positive role models as well as mentors for students who need support. I'm really excited about this program as well as what we will be rolling out today. And I want to remind everyone that the city believes that every student who has a better opportunity in education will improve our city. And I'll turn it over so that we can talk more about the details. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sasha. And I love how, by the way, you forgot your mask. Put it right there. So, for those of us who were born and raised here, a lot of us have actually grown up in this sort of system. And in a fun irony, that cadet program, I was a student in that back at Del Norte High School, so I was a pre-K. And so it's a really cool program, and so appreciate APS for that. Shout outs to Del Norte. So the other aspect too is a lot of us were in different Parks and Recs programs, and there are others. So I do want to mention, reach out, of course, to, like, for example, Boys Club, and also YMCA, and it's Boys and Girls Club, and YMCA, that there are others that also provide these programs too. And so we're in coordination with them, and check out their website and so forth to find out more about that. Okay, so with that, let's hand it over to Josh Herbert to speak more about program information.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, everyone. My name is Josh Herbert. I am the division manager for aquatics, so I run the pool. So I also am the chair of the One Albuquerque Youth Connect. I have the pleasure of working with all city departments to offer as many resources as we can for our youth in Albuquerque. So I want to talk about a little bit about our program registration and kind of where we got to this. So in July, what we had heard so far about APS was that they were going into a hybrid model where it's 50% capacity, where we go 1 week on, 1 week off. Recent developments pushed it a little bit after Labor Day, so nothing can happen in school until after Labor Day. So we understand that we really need to step up as a city to provide those opportunities. So I'll kind of talk about what the mayor had discussed, where we have a lottery program where we opened that up. It's currently open right now. It remains open through August 14th. So families who have signed up for that lottery program will receive notification to register on August 17th, and we'll have until August 21st to register for the programs. And this is all-day programs at senior centers and multi-generational centers and community centers. So find out more information by going to yc.cabq.gov. It's a mobile website for our Youth Connect team, and you can also go and register at play.cabq.gov. So as the mayor mentioned, this lottery sign up will help us determine the need for the programs that we're developing. I want to talk about our Parks and Recreation programs. So kind of my home where I live in Parks and Recreation through aquatics. I want to talk about open space. So we've expanded our summer program where we have the Explore Camp. We've developed Saturdays through August 29th. So kids ages 6 through 10 explore nature and the great outdoors at the Open Space Visitors Center off course. Campers engage in environmental education activities, nature exploration, story time, journaling, and crafts. But throughout the school year, we've developed a new program. It's the Outdoor Field School. So kids explore Albuquerque's environment and natural surroundings, and they'll do that through this fall. And it runs September through November, Thursdays and Fridays, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And in Parks and Recreation, we are also offering tennis lessons. So fall tennis lessons will continue. We've expanded those for juniors ages 5 through 14 years of age. It'll take place at Jerry Klein and the Sierra Vista Tennis Centers. Not all skill and age levels are available during each time slot, but we're going to try to do our best to provide as much programming as we can. So we're having 2-week sessions, and they're going to run September 12th through October 31st. Also, with the pools, we've developed private swimming lessons where parents can become involved. We have opportunities in the mornings and in the evenings and on weekends, and we want to try to provide as many opportunities as we can to provide those different pods and different lessons that we have throughout all of our pools. So 4 indoor pools will be offering swimming lessons, these parent-led swimming lessons with the instructors. So we'll have parent-taught classes, preschool classes, pods 1, 2, 3, and then pods 4 and 5, that's a little bit older where we're getting into the more experienced swimming, so the parents don't need to be in the water. But we realized how important it is, the skill to learn how to swim, because you never know when you're caught in a body of water or you're around a body of water, a backyard pool or a lake, where those life-saving skills are very important. And that's what we have to offer this fall. And I just want to say that face mask coverings are required for all programs except for swimming lessons. So when they're in the water, we don't require a face mask because once that mask gets wet, it's really hard to breathe through. So we're practicing 6 feet social distancing during all these lessons to keep everybody safe. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Josh. And now I want to hand it over to our deputy director over on the family community side to talk about the different programming at our community centers, Jess Martinez.
Thank you, Mayor. As my colleagues have already stated, the nuts and bolts of what we're here today, from the Department of Family and Community Services and the Department of Senior Affairs, we are really offering the baseline all-day programming. It's going to run from 7:30 to 5:30. The multi-generational facilities will be available, as well as our 22 community centers. To include lunch and a supper meal. As Sasha did state, we are working with APS on an educational component. So depending on the schedule that you will be on, as we are following the APS schedule, we will have the ability for us to help with that distance learning component for working parents. And from a safety perspective, which is utmost in our minds, we will be following the same practices that we did for the summer program. We will be requiring face coverings, social distancing, as well as wellness checks before you enter into the facility. And at this time, I would like to thank the mayor for giving us the opportunity to push the envelope as we have Youth Connect with Josh, Sasha with APS, because I do believe that we are rising to the challenge. And thank you, Mayor, for giving us that opportunity to do that.
Okay, well, great job, Jess and team. And we do want to touch a little bit on some of our virtual programs as well. And so for us, again, I want to just remind everyone of two things. Number one, all of this is very complicated to do, which is why a lot of cities don't do it, meaning that there are logistics with respect to face masks 6 feet away, with respect to signups, contact tracing. So we're doing this in a way, number one, that is in full compliance with the public health order, but also, and I think just as importantly, we're doing this in a way that we think is the safest way to actually be able to do this, but it is very different. So I want to remind folks, the extra bureaucracy, the extra rules, the extra hassle, it's all very important. That's why we're able to do this. And it's also because we have such a great team that isn't afraid of things that are complicated. And so appreciate our team for that. And part of this is also having some great virtual content. And so I want to bring up Shel Sanchez, our Director of Cultural Services, to talk about the zoo and the museum and some other things around the biopark.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a lot happening in cultural services. I know many of us think of the museum and the biopark and our theaters as places for entertainment, which is absolutely true, but they're also every single day a place for education. And so we're very happy that we can step up with this team and really offer additional opportunities throughout this school year. But I want to say one happy thing if you haven't heard. The zoo is reopening to the public on Wednesday, August 12th. Kids and families can come back to the outdoor exhibits. To keep things safe, we're using time ticketing to make sure that we can keep our numbers low in the park and keep everyone safe. So you have to get your ticket online before you go and sign up for your half an hour window, which is when you need to show up. You can stay longer than a half an hour, but you have a half an hour that you have to show up during. And we also have added evening hours at the Botanic Garden on Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays, which is another great time to go out with your family. And same thing there, time ticketing and masks during your whole visit. Before I get into some of our virtual content, I want to say that Explora is going to have additional programming this fall. Like many of us, they're kind of waiting to put out the schedule until we understand what the needs are going to be for our families, but they'll have additional single-day programs, week-long and semester-long STEM programs, including creative coding, engineering, and science activities for all ages. So if you're an Explora fan, pay attention to their website. One of the things that Cultural Services is doing is we're really stepping up for our teens. And that's something we do often, but we really feel like this fall, a lot of the club opportunities and enrichment opportunities, and sometimes the things that kids use to figure out what they're going to be when they grow up as teenagers, they have fewer opportunities in school because they're just, APS is going to have to just be doing essential things. So we have added teen programs at the biopark, a paraprofessional program at the library, across all of our libraries, art studio at the Albuquerque Museum, mural projects through public art, and internships. So those details will be coming out at the end of August. So please, if you're a teen, if you're in high school, look at those opportunities for this fall. And then we have hours and hours of online content. That's someplace that we've excelled in the past, and we've had lots of time to kind of step up our game during this pandemic. So we have virtual entertainment from our special events team that's been streamed through One Albuquerque Media. You'll see that on your public access channels. You'll see that on our YouTube channels, on our Facebook pages. The Albuquerque Biopark has brought you the zoo, aquarium, Tingley Beach, and Botanic Garden to your living room this whole time. So, and all of those things are still there. So if you missed some of them, there's some amazing interviews with keepers and animals. I don't know if the animals are really talking, but it kind of feels like they are. So go and look at those. The Albuquerque Museum created a web page where visitors can take a virtual tour, download coloring pages, and you can also listen to Picture This podcast, which just gives some great behind-the-scenes information and interviews and scholarly lectures. So a lot of great stuff there. Explora has also really stepped up their game in terms of education for students at home. A little more engaging sometimes than some of the other things that we get that kids have to do at home right now. So go to their website. They've got the hashtag Explora Challenge, the Slow-Mo Challenge, story times on its social media channels, and all kinds of activities to do at home. The Anderson Abruzzo Albuquerque International Balloon Museum is posting lessons that can be done with items around your house, like how strong is spaghetti, through Facebook and Instagram, so look at that. And they're also going to have some in-person opportunities for families to pre-register one at a time to go in and do some things in the fall as well. And then there's a tremendous amount of art that can be enjoyed during your walks and drives around town. I know you're all doing it because I see so many more people on my streets walking. So look at the Public Art Interactive website. Look at muralsabq.com for a listing of all the murals. I'm sure there's one in your neighborhood. Learn about it and get out there, put on your mask, walk with your family, and enjoy the art. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shel. And so I think we'll move to wrap things up and take some questions. First, I do want to mention this concept about what we're asking everyone to do. Basically, we need everyone who's interested in any of these programs to register. And so I want to emphasize how important this is because the registration is then what drives our understanding of when we need programs, where we need programs, and also like how many teachers we need and how much money it's going to cost. So without that information and registration, right, we have no idea what people actually need or want. And so we're really telling you that no matter what happens with APS, if you're interested in any of this, please register. And so we're going to try and bring basically those two things together so that when APS makes final decisions, we'll also be ready to make final decisions. If we don't do it this way, there's going to be like a month gap in whatever we're trying to do. So this is really the only way for us to stay in step with APS is to have this registration over the next few weeks. So that's why we need everyone to register. That's also why if you have questions about how many kids at what program, at what time, and at what day, we can't answer those until we get all the registration in. And so we will be able to answer those hopefully in the beginning of September when they will actually start. But for right now, we've got to understand the supply, the demand, so we can really map out how we're going to supply that demand for programs. Okay, so for us, a reminder, a couple of other items. There is a town hall tonight, a telephone town hall, and it's with myself and the First Lady, and we're going to focus on these cities supporting kids and families during the time of Corona and going into the school year. Now, if you want to register for that, just check out our CABQ website or call 311. Now, also, we are continuing to provide meals for seniors. We've got a lot of questions on that. We've provided 250,000 senior meals. That's 250,000. We are going to continue to do that. We've done thousands of welfare checks. This continues. We're going to hit about 500,000 meals by Christmas. It's a good thing that our city is able to provide those meals to those who need them. We're also going to continue to try and keep businesses afloat. As a reminder, we're basically waiving every permitting fee that we possibly can right now. That is in aggregate over $1 million of additional assistance to businesses. That includes inspections, permitting, licenses, and the planning department is fully open. So I want to make sure that you know that's the case. And we also have awarded 29 grants to businesses to support outdoor dining space. So we did that last week, but just as a follow-up. Okay, and then we also need everyone to continue to do their part. Everyone to wear their mask, avoid large gatherings, stay 6 feet apart, wash your hands. All of those things are going to enable this programming to continue. Lastly, we know that we are going to have positive cases, whether it's City Hall, whether it's kids programs, whether it's the fire department. We have had those throughout the time of Corona. We expect them to continue. I think the good news is we've been able to get people the help that they need, and because of the way we're doing this, we're able to quickly isolate, quickly do contact tracing, and then within a few days get programs back up and running. That is the kind of resilience that we're going to have to get used to for about a year. So I want to remind folks that that's what we're set up to do. It is to be resilient and work through positive cases. Unfortunately, there is no way to prevent positive cases in any of these programs. We can only do the best we can to mitigate them and to try and be able to keep services up and running. Okay, so with that, we'll take questions from folks. So looks like Danielle, I think you're... Oh, Jesse. Hello.
One from Jessica Meyer to Albuquerque Journal. How will you staff this fall youth program expansion? Aren't many of the summer program leaders also high school students?
So the question is, how are we going to staff these programs? And many of them are high school. Well, what we're going to do, this is why this registration is so important. We'll have an answer to that question probably in a couple of weeks, because we need to understand exactly what programs are needed and whether or not they're high school appropriate, and we got to understand of high schoolers what their virtual learning calendar is going to be like. Is it fixed? Is it flexible, etc.? So we may be able to use high schoolers, we may not, and we're going to be ready to do either one as long as we've got your name in the system.
Thank you, Mayor. Another question here from Ryan Laughlin at GOV. Tax-free weekend starts tomorrow. Is the city doing anything additional to enforce the public health order? And what is your message to shoppers and retailers?
So the question is about the tax-free weekend and our message to shoppers and so forth. Just a reminder, the public health order absolutely applies. And so our code inspectors, environmental health folks will be working with all the retailers to make sure that they're following the mask order as they're cross-deputized to provide enforcement notice of that. We'll also be working with them to make sure they continue to provide the occupancy. So I believe all of those stores are still at 50% occupancy and have various required spacing rules. And so the city will be out enforcing all of that over the weekend. Again, if you see violations or are concerned about issues, please call 311 so we know where to direct those resources. And again, that will be primarily handled by our fire department and our environmental health department.
Thank you, Mayor. A similar question from the Journal, but from KRQE, about how many kids you hope to help with the programs this fall.
So our goal is to try and help 10,000. We don't know what the demand will be, but we will know soon. But like we did in the summer, we're trying to help about a third of what we normally were able to help. And so that's our goal. Again, we'll see what the demand is like and how much funding our partners are also willing to put into this, which will also dictate how many kids we're going to be able to help.
Okay. Sorry, one more question here from Russell Confettis with the Associated Press. What is the latest with federal agents working with APD on solving crimes? does this effort complicate efforts to build community police and community relationships amid the DOJ?
So, question coming in about our relationship with the federal government and so forth, and how does that complicate things with respect to the community. So, first, want to remind everyone, as I've stated before, we do work with federal and state partners every day, and so we do that, though, under the auspice of clear rules. And those rules are usually outlined in writing in a memorandum of understanding. And those rules include following the DOJ reform efforts that the city has to do and we want to do to try and rebuild trust in the community. So it certainly complicates things, but we know at a local level we actually have a working relationship. And that relationship so far has played out in terms of the different operations and finding a way for the city and other departments in the federal government to work together. So our concern really has been about DC getting in the way, especially with their reckless rhetoric about these programs. Left locally, we can make these work for our city as we have in the past, and that's really what we want to do going forward. All right, so I think the only other thing I would add before we wrap up is Jesse, if you'd like to do a curtain call, if you want to pop in front of the camera. So this is really for the media, a little insider baseball here, but Jesse's been our PIO. You hear her name, her voice all the time. She's going to be moving on to a very exciting job. And so don't call her after Friday if you have questions, is more what I wanted to help her out with. So you want to wave or do anything?
I think I'm okay.
All right, she's okay. So again, I mean, we might give her the weekend, but starting Monday, don't call and ask for Jesse. We're going to have folks kind of on rotation. So just for the media out there, we'll still try and be as responsive and transparent as we can, but we also ask for a little bit of patience until we have a new PIO. Okay, with that, thank you very much. Stay healthy and safe, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks.